the drawback to indirectly build shift this dynamic. So we work on that to change the inner world. So that is a wrap for our silencing your self-critic and your inner critic. Hopefully you found this interesting and insightful. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts, so feel free to share below if you've got and want to continue this conversation, want to share some of your insights, feel free to do so as well. And so I just want you to remember that we have a beautiful tool, mindset tool, of applying the Demartini method for us to be able to dissolve the dynamics in our inner world. So come to class. If you haven't come for a little while, come back to class. You'll love our sessions. We have sessions on side A and side B of the Demartini method to be able to dissolve the infatuation, resentment that you have going on in your inner world. So because essentially what we do is, instead of being drowned out by the outer voices, we hear that one inner voice, which is our soul's calling, which is our mission, our purpose, which is what we're here to do. And we want that to be loud and clear for us so we can get on doing what we feel is most meaningful and missionful for us. So thank you for sharing up for class, and I look forward to seeing you at the next perfect time. So as we wrap up our in-depth question, hope you found that interesting. We are now going to go into our Ask Me Anything class for today. We have lots of questions. So let me just, and I haven't read them yet, so here we go. First question is, I was wondering if someone could shed some light on in relation to COVID and extreme pain in the forearm and bicep. The pain is so severe, I can't move my arm, while the other arm hurts, not to the same degree. So pain, the best book I've ever read on pain is, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Now I've even forgotten what it's called. But it basically talks about making pain your friend. And it talks about pain's a feedback mechanism. And so rather than seeing it and judging pain as something that's negative, don't like, there's something wrong, if we can open up to this idea that it's actually calling us and inviting us to make a change, to look at our body, maybe we've been too in our head and too forward, future focused, and all of a sudden it's kind of really drawing you back into the present moment. And so you want to just ask sometimes, just on the higher level surface, like, how is the pain serving me? Like, what is the pain trying to teach me to make pain your friend rather than your foe? And so I would start there just to unpack some of that dynamic. You know, we can then go into certain parts of the body, like if it's the arm and the bicep, I don't know if it's left arm or right arm, you can ask, is there something I'm struggling maybe to carry or have physically or spiritually, because spiritually for the left arm, physically for the right arm. So you can go into more depth in terms of the parts of the physical body where you have it. So yeah, just some thoughts for you. Okay, next question is, my mum has had some chemotherapy. She's still smoking and just can't stop, which makes her partner, my sister, and I pretty sad and frustrated. I've done lots of Demartini method work on it, but since I can't influence her with motivation words or just being, is there anything I can do on work to help her? I would rather be asking what's the benefit of her smoking less? Well, everyone has a choice to how they choose to live life. Like maybe that's her coping strategy to relax and feel de-stressed, and that's actually helping her body rather than hindering it. And so I'm not saying that smoking is helpful and not harmful, it's both. But if she doesn't have another coping strategy to feel calm and to unwind, then it's going to be really difficult for her to be able to drop that habit. And so one is, you could ask, what specifically is it about? Like, it's still, challenging because she's impacting her health and she's still making decisions that are in your perception, detrimental to her health. And so I would then go and find, well, where are you doing the same thing? Where are you doing things that are impacting your health and people are saying, stop, do it, but you do it anyway? So maybe you can deep dive into that. I think also and this is maybe something that we can do, especially if there's, she's had chemotherapy, cancer, there's potential death. She's then still doing actions that are leading towards her death, potentially. And so maybe it's also forcing you to, and I say this with like lots of care and lots of love, like maybe it's, challenging you to open up to the idea that she's going to die one day, and that be more maybe prepared for that. We did a really beautiful death and dying masterclass inside of our Maximum Growth Academy around having those conversations around that transition period of life. And so I wonder, if you became more comfortable with that, would that change how you feel about what your mum is doing or not doing? Is there an element that you feel attached to her living, and that's why you want to help her? Maybe that dynamic is there. So maybe you can also wake up, because if there's a misperception or label on her, this extreme, she's not taking care of her health, she's not looking after herself, maybe you can find column 12 where she is actually doing that, where she is actually making a difference and progressing forward with her health and taking care of her health and looking after her health. So you can break that label. Even though she's smoking, she's also doing other things that are she's doing things that are helpful and harmful to her health. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. But I know there's an ongoing dynamic. And so if anything else comes up, feel free to write back in. So the other question is, my friend with a brain tumor in her mid-40s and has a little girl in kindergarten. My friend is one of the kindest people I know and always goes above and beyond to help people, even if it means pushing herself physically beyond what she's capable and getting little sleep. First surgery meant that this was really scaled her back, but growth continued. I'm just wondering if there could be a kind of suppression played out as well. Okay, so sometimes what I've noticed is when people have health issues, depending on what the health issue is, sometimes how that the health issue manifests because there's that self-sacrifice, giving so much to others, giving time to kids, time to family, time to a career, time to a relationship. What do people need? Time to clients, and then all this give, and so much giving to the outer world, no giving and nurturing of self. Because of this split, the internal world creates an illness that wakes up or shouts at this individual, forces this individual to go, enough of the outside world, enough of focusing on the outside world. You can't do that. You have to completely go inward and just take care of you first, then the world. And so that dynamic can play. And then what I have noticed sometimes with some people is that they do that experience, the outside world, they get an illness, they make maybe a slight little change, little change here and there, but then they get better, and then they go back out to the outside world and give. And then the illness come back, or they get another illness, or the illness is louder than previous, because it's still haven't learnt the lesson. Because remember that our repeated dynamic, getting repeated over and over again, is this repetition, because we haven't learned the lesson. And so what we want to really deeply appreciate is, if we get the lesson the first time, the lesson doesn't have to get louder and slap us around and put us through a washing machine, where it feels like sometimes it's like, I got it now. Okay, great. And then you take that into the world. It's like you first and then the world. You nurture you put your oxygen mask on you first and then the world. And so if this individual hasn't gotten it, sometimes we as friends around us and we're noticing, because in some of the language you use, it's like always above and beyond, so we might want to just call it out to them. Sometimes if you feel like you have a great enough relationship, it's like you have to take care of you first. What are you doing for you? What are you doing to look after you? Some of the things we want to know is that because people have this like altruistic side of themselves, I have to take everyone else because I don't feel like they're capable of taking care of themselves. But that's not true. we want to teach our kids to be resilient, take care of themselves. We want to have our family members be able to be resourceful and look after themselves as well. And so taking a step back allows them to have greater independence and self-reliance. So kind of having that step back, you want to ask, well, how would it serve them? How would it serve them to focus on themselves and take care of themselves and have autonomy and do that? So then we don't feel so needy. Or is it needy? Yeah, it'll be like needy or needed. But part of that can be really entangled with our identity and our sense of self. It's like, I don't know who I am if I'm not being needed. I don't know who I am if I'm not being wanted and I'm doing these things for all these other people. It's like their identity has become so intertwined in the outside world, they've forgotten themselves, which is what illness can do. It does make us really go inward and reflect on our life and reflect on who we are and reflect on what's really important to us, because sometimes you can't do anything else but that. And so hopefully that's been helpful for you in terms of being able to support your friend. So next question is, I often have sexual fantasies about other girls and my current relationship. I love my partner, but I still have these intrusive thoughts that I'm feeling constantly having to repress. I believe that negatively impacts my coaching business, and I somewhat don't trust myself with women I find sexually attractive. I feel less self-control, tending to be flirtatious. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. Like I deeply appreciate you sharing your inner world, especially on this. I know that there's other people who go through this as well, especially when there's this idea of like committed relationship. When you're in a committed relationship,